In this video, we're going to talk about how you can utilize geometry from an AutoCAD file to move into Inventor and be able to then start a new part file and extrude from that point. Unfortunately, since if you've gone ahead and drawn a multi-view drawing in an AutoCAD file of a particular part, say specifically, let's go and find this part here, specifically this shaft support 5-64. You're not going to be able to just bring it into Inventor and extrude the entire part in one move or one particular feature here. What you're going to have to do is then be able to then think about how you're going to utilize this multi-view drawing so that you can get a closed loop profile so that you can start an extrusion and then continue to build it in Inventor. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead right away. We're going to do a very simple highlight of some AutoCAD geometry, and I'm going to do a Control-C on my keyboard. I'm going to go into an Inventor file. This is a new part file. I'm going to go ahead and start a 2D sketch, and I'm going to put that on my XY plane. From this point, I'm just going to go ahead and do a Control-V, and that's going to then bring in the geometry that I copied from that AutoCAD file, and I'm just going to go ahead and paste that into my sketch by clicking with my left mouse button. And it's now going to go ahead and go through the regeneration process to make this geometry visible. And it takes a little bit of time. And I'll go ahead and zoom out, and I can now see this is line geometry that has been placed into my Inventor file. Now, if I wanted to actually go ahead and show all constraints to see if there are constraints, there are some constraints that have been placed, yet not too high-level constraints such as tangents or anything to that point. So the only thing I'm going to be able to do at this point is be able to extrude a closed loop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and actually delete some of the geometry inside of this area, because this geometry could go ahead and upset the actual extrusion process. So I'm going to go ahead now and just finish the sketch, grab my extrude tool, and I should be able to grab that entire closed loop profile, and then I'll go ahead and extrude this 3 inches, because that's the depth to do the extrusion to. When I come back in and take a look at this part, and we'll see is that blown up a little bigger, it's a little larger here. As I look at the part, it is 3 inches in depth. Now I need to go ahead and just create the counterbores. So creating the counterbores is a very simple process in Inventor. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my hole tool. And the first thing I'm going to do is change the placement here for concentric, because the first one that I want to place is going to be the counterbore on this top arc. So in my concentric reference, I'm going to go ahead and just select the plane. I'll go ahead and change it to a counterbore right now, so I know it's set to that. And then I'm going to select my concentric reference, which is going to be that top arc. And that goes ahead and centers the counterbore on the arc. Now I can go ahead and start putting in that counterbore information, where the top of the top diameter of the counterbore here is going to be 2 inches. The depth of the counterbore is 1/2 of an inch, so 0.5. And then I believe the through hole, I have to go back and take a quick check here, that the through hole is going to be 1.5 inches in diameter. So with that set up, I'm going to go ahead and type in the 1.5 inches for diameter, and now that sets up the counterbore in the one portion of that part. Now the depth was set up on the counterbore to go through all, so I didn't have to worry about the depth of the through hole. Next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and set up the counterbore on the flat face area here by utilizing the same tool, the hole tool. And I'm going to keep this, or actually select this to be linear, or keep it on linear as it was. And what I need to do is then I'm going to select, again, the plane or the face that it's going to be placed on. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop that counterbore here. And then I'm going to select the first reference, and this is going to be an edge that it's going to be offset from. So then it wants to know the distance from the edge to the center of the feature, and that's going to be 1.5 inches. And then I'm going to go ahead, hit enter. So I'm going to go over here and right click on my counterbore, hole number 2, edit the feature again, because I need to give it a reference from this direction. So my reference 2 is going to be from this edge, and you can see I now have a dimension that I can place from this direction. And I'll go back and check and see, yep, that's 1.5 inches as well. So I can go back to my part and give it 1.5 inches. Now that jumps into position, and was careful not to hit enter that time on the keyboard. And I can come over to my hole dialog and say, yep, that's the hole that I want. My termination is set up to go through all, not a distance, which is very convenient. And then I hit OK. So now the part is complete. Very easy to then go ahead and model this part. so that I can now see I have my 2 counterbore features, and this particular part can now be saved as 5-64 shaft support, and I'll be ready to move on to my next part.